So let's talk about Monsanto and glyphosate and the gut biome.
Yeah. So a lot of people have heard about glyphosate. If you haven't, glyphosate is a pesticide, is a chemical that's found in Monsanto's Roundup. Now, criminally, you can still buy Roundup at Home Depot. And it's being sprayed all over the place. In fact, the most common use agriculturally is by dumping it into the water table, which is just terrible. So it's the most widely used agricultural product on Earth. They dump millions and millions, hundreds of millions of gallons into the water table in this country, billions around the world. And unfortunately, because it gets administered at a large scale through water, it's been found in up to 75% of the food supply in our country, including organic food. So glyphosate basically breaks down the immune system of insects from the inside when they eat the plant. And surprise, surprise, it does that to humans too. So, we have just an epidemic of autoimmune conditions. We see rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, IBD, MS, Hashimoto's, type 1 diabetes, all sorts of autoimmune conditions happening more and more in our society. And if we can really focus on our gut health, then a lot of that can be mitigated, or we can live a much more healthy life. Now, up to 70 to 80% of our immune system lives in our gut. The gut's called the second brain. A lot of our neurotransmissions are there. Up to about 50% of our serotonin is created in the gut. So a compromised gut can lead to a lot of depression. And some spiritual folks would say that it is the center of our intuition as well. And so a compromised gut health really and it's a hot topic right now because there's a lot of good science coming out around this right now. But a compromised gut really sets off an imbalance in the rest of the system and can lead to a lot of other terrible things. So gut health in general is a big passion of mine, but especially working with removing the glyphosate from the system of adults, children, and even of pets in our culture who are even more widely exposed to it than sometimes humans.
So that's a great summary. I really appreciate it. By the way, a friend of mine, a congresswoman named Rosa DeLauro, actually sponsored a bill to ban glyphosate in products. And of course, it has gone nowhere at this point. But if we do what you and I have been working on for years and years and get people to actually register and vote for people who care about the environment, we can do anything, including ban glyphosate. It is unbelievable to me that we are allowing that to be in our ecosystem in any way, shape, or form. What percentage, Tala, of people do you believe have some degree of glyphosate residue in their bodies or in their gut?
100.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's every test that they have done for glyphosate on an adult in North America has come back positive. There hasn't been one that has not. And you can actually do your own glyphosate test at home. You can buy a kit for about $100 and do a little sample.
But if we're talking about 100%, you might as well save your money.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And instead do things to get the glyphosate out. But before we get to how to get the glyphosate out, can you take us through the biology of what happens when glyphosate is in your gut? And you're talking about like leaky gut syndrome and all of that.
Yeah. So I'm not an expert. I am just a passionate student. But I have been studying this for quite a while. So there may be people even on this Zoom who have more technical knowledge than me. But from my understanding, the lower gut, of course, like our entire human body is a porous environment. It's not like hard metal walls, right? There's breathing in and out. There's pores. There's holes, right? But when we have environmental toxins, glyphosate being one of them, but just to say there are many, many other environmental toxins as well that get into our gut, oftentimes what they'll do is they will compromise the walls of the digestive system and of the intestine. The walls have these little hairs called villi and microvilli, these little hairs that are responsible for the nutrient absorption. So when we get these environmental toxins, glyphosate being paramount among them, they are crumpling, bending, even sometimes bleaching the microvilli. I've heard it described, and it's a little bit of a gross analogy, but we're talking about the body here. You know, when you put your pet out in the backyard and they pee in the same spot too much, you get a bleached out area. So that can happen with the little grass, the microvilli in your gut. And when that happens, you can be eating the most farm fresh diet, you can be getting the best foods, but if it's not absorbing into your body, then you are not going to be obviously getting the benefit of that nutrition. You're going to become nutrition deficient. Also, what's happening is a lot of these environmental toxins are actually stretching or tearing the natural junctions in the lower gut, which are supposed to be between 1 to 9 microns large. And now we're seeing people who have leaky gut conditions where they're up to 300 microns large, these junctions. And what that does is it lets partially digested food matter out where it's not supposed to go out into the bloodstream. And when it goes into the bloodstream, then the body recognizes it as an alien substance. And basically, when that happens, it broadcasts a signal to the rest of the immune system to start attacking that kind of protein or that kind of substance. And so the body starts attacking itself. And this is what we call autoimmune conditions. So most of these autoimmune conditions at least start at leaky gut. So if we can be paying attention to the gut health, if we can be shrinking those junctures back down, if we can be avoiding the chemicals that do this and the environmental toxins that do this in the first place, and if we can be regrowing this microvilli and nourishing our lower gut microbiome, then we're avoiding or even in some cases reversing these very conditions.
So Tala, our luck, we actually just were joined by someone who I think probably has a lot to say about glyphosate, and that is Kimberly Bennett, who is a board-certified doctorate in natural medicine and is a specialist in homeopathy. Kimberly, I want to just ask you to weigh in, if you can, on what Tala was saying about glyphosate and the gut biome. And then I want to go back to Tala and have him finish what he was saying. And then I want to talk to you about homeopathy and COVID. Fairly controversial and powerful subject. So let's just talk about glyphosate and the gut biome. I'm sure you have some thoughts, right?
So I actually have a full degree in holistic nutrition as well. So very, very on par with what you're saying. And there's over 400 toxins that have been seen clearly in human tissues. So you're exactly on track. And a big piece of what's happening is the damage to the thyroid. So there's, where people were never on Synthroid, pretty much right across the board, everyone's on some sort of thyroid support right now. So absolutely. And it's a very similar behavior that happens with glutens, and the damage from the GMO on the wheat are doing the exact same thing as the glyphosates. So it is a major issue. We do detox with the homeopathics. It's a challenging situation. Yeah.
But so do you agree with Tala that glyphosate is a horrible thing?
It's extremely damaging. Yeah.
And isn't it because literally the way glyphosate and Roundup work is it goes inside of the plant, right? And then you eat that plant, regardless of what vegetable or fruit it is, and you have now been eating glyphosate. You've been eating the thing that was designed to kill things, and it's now part of your digestive system.
But that's the process of the it's not a fertilizer. It's a systemic.
The glyphosate
Pesticide.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like an external thing. You spray it, you kill a few bugs, and you go on, and everybody can. Kimberly, thank you for weighing in on that. Tala, so tell us a little bit about Purium and your solution to the glyphosate poisoning and perhaps other toxins as well, as Kimberly was talking about, that Purium has been researching and has come up with, which sounds pretty powerful to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm partnered with a company called Purium, started by Dave Sandoval and Amy Venner. Dave Sandoval is the author of the Green Foods Bible and studied with Ann Wigmore and has been, in this space for a long time. So we have a product called Biome Medic, and it's a combination of fulvic acid, humic acid, a fermented wheat germ extract that's functionally gluten-free at a very low parts per million, as well as a very powerful pre and probiotic blend called lactospore. So we have done preclinical, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies on a fairly small test group, but we're hoping to be doing an even larger study soon. But what we're finding is that this product has reduced glyphosate toxicity in the lower gut by up to 74% in 6 weeks. And then also it has lowered the inflammatory marker C-reactive protein, or CRP, which is a predictor for heart disease and other inflammatory conditions. It also lowered CRP by 76% in 6 weeks, which is rather remarkable. It also improved lower gut immune function by about 35%. These, for anyone who has done any research or is familiar with any of these things, are very astonishing numbers. So, and the anecdotal stories that we're getting from people with autoimmune conditions, with fibromyalgia, even people dealing with intense symptoms on the autism spectrum, as well as celiac, have really been quite amazing. So, let me just go a little bit into these ingredients here. So we have humic and fulvic acid that were naturally in the soil 100 years ago. 100 years ago, we didn't have to worry about eating organic because everything was organic, right? But now with the soil degradation that we've seen in our world, there's very, very small amounts of humic, fulvic acid. So the humic and fulvic acid, they're basically, chelating and binding the glyphosate as well as many other toxins. I mean, glyphosate's a particularly hot topic right now, and it is very, very toxic and very important and is the most widely used pesticide on the planet right now. But I've forgotten your name, but the woman who was just speaking, Kimberly said there's over 400 different contaminants that we're seeing in toxins. So the fulvic and humic are going to bind those toxins. And then we have, I forgot to mention in the ingredients, we also have a fiber in there that's I believe it's a chicory. And that is going to then pull that out and send it out through the GI tract. Then we have this really incredible pre and probiotic blend called lactospore, which is the most rapidly colonizing probiotic. It's spore-based, so it doesn't need to be refrigerated. And basically, every molecule of this lactospore, it goes into the lower gut, it bursts open and releases 500 molecules, and then each one of those bursts open and releases 500 molecules. So it's recolonizing the beneficial bacteria of your lower gut. So basically, when you're doing this, it just completely revolutionizes the whole system, and it's just so important in our world. If I could, I always say it's like if you knew your entire family was poisoned, which we just established that we are, the human family is poisoned with glyphosate as well as other things, and you had the antidote in your hand, what would you do, right? So that's why I've just been on a big campaign to let all of my loved ones know and get everybody taking this particular really amazing, totally non-GMO and organic product.
Kala, thank you. That's amazing.